factory idea really came about as part of a larger conversation about work, substance, material, labor, and a lot of sociological factors, unemployment, mechanization, automation. I was interested in some more philosophical ideas of how meaning is created through material. And I wanted to kind of combine those two things using language that's really familiar to a large number of people, and that is economics and the idea of a factory and the idea of productivity and creating something, a product that's valued, that can be bought and sold, that people would give money for.
When I came into this show, that's what I was first looking at, was what the objects were. And to be frank, I was a little bit puzzled by what they were, because they all seem to relate to something other than their own physical presence.
There's clearly always been a conversation and a fear of new technology in a lot of ways, of sort of the changes that it will bring to society and the jobs that it will displace, and you know, the skills that it will completely devalue. And you know, that's certainly part of the conversation, as well as the conversation that technology always brings unintended jobs.
I think, Jake, your investigation is interesting to me because you're trying to get inside that and find out how the changes that are physically evident, visually evident in the city, also affect the people who worked in those factories that I took as giant pieces of really interesting kinetic sculpture.
Right.
What's it like when you're inside it? You know, and what's it like when that starts to disappear or change?
You know, heat treating was something that Tammy Akers did, and she was very clear that this was a job that was going to be around a little bit longer than, say, working at a forge or something like that. You know, and on the same factory floor, there were the forges that were clearly built. They looked like they could be right out of a photograph from 1905, and they were still running, and they were just kind of patched together with the newest safety mechanism that needed to go on it, but it still was the same infrastructure. And that was right next to the 15 component robot assembly line that every 30 seconds they would make a tire rim, and 15 robots in a row, and then the workers just came and picked up the product and left. And so that went from needing 15 to 16 employees down to 2.
Part of the drop of quality of American automobiles was a point where the workers' connection to the object that came out the other end was diminished, and so they had to reconfigure the process of production to put that back in. Abstracting those motions of the worker from production and turning them into something that other people, the rest of us, might experience through mimesis. It seemed like a really potent possibility of that video and this machine in a certain way, you know.
Incorporating this kind of research component to it, of really talking to people, not so much reading about it. The talking to people has brought up much more complexity, and so the work that I ended up making, it feels more open-ended. It feels like I'm starting to pick away at how do I, through my practice, really create conversation rather than create reaction to my statement. For the first time, really, this feels like the start of a process rather than the kind of the end of a thought or the